the New Britain Board of Education, providing students with a high-quality education.
Good evening. Today is Monday, February 7th, 2022. I call this meeting of the New Britain Board of Education to order. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Parker, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Lardy, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Gail Sanders Connolly.
Present.
Mr. Merrill Gay.
present.
Mr. Joseph Listro.
Present.
Mr. Anthony Kane with a C.
Present.
Miss Monica Dawkins.
Present.
Mr. Anthony Kane.
Present.
Mr. Matthew Marino.
Present.
Miss Annie Parker.
Present.
Miss Diana Reyes.
Present.
Miss Tina Santana.
Present. Thank you. We could just take a short moment of meditation, and while we do that, if we could just keep like families, teachers, administrators, city leaders in your thoughts while we have this meditation. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for public participation?
I don't see any phone numbers in the call. I don't know if you want to reach out and check.
I did not log into the meeting.
Okay.
How do we check it?
Anyone for public participation? Call number 2. One more time, anybody on for public participation? If you are on mute, you could throw something in the chat. We'll give you a second. All right. Moving on to Superintendent's Report.
Good evening, everyone. There's 3 parts to tonight's Superintendent's Report. I've asked Sandra Sanford, Christina Denegre, and Lisa Kowecki to speak a little bit on each topic. They're going to give you a brief summary. You have the whole thing to read. And of course, any questions you can follow up with emails. So I'll start with Sandra.
Good evening, everyone. One of the things that we would like to share with you today is encompassing of the last 6 years developing our academies at New Britain High School. Most recently, we've had many partners and community come together to develop the Manufacturing Engineering and Technology Academy at New Britain High School. And part of that package and part of the academy development was to ensure that the students were learning on the most recent, relevant, and most up-to-date equipment. What I shared in the Superintendent Report has a little snippet of a business plan that we put together many years ago in order to develop this academy and to make New Britain High School Academies the best in-class manufacturing academy in the area. But in order to do all that work, we needed to bring in our community partners. So we started similar to all the other academies at New Britain High School, we follow the National Academy Foundation model, and that gives us a third-party audit for them to come in and verify that what we say we're doing, we are actually doing. And there's pillars, 4 pillars of every academy. It's the academy structure, it's the advisory board, it's work-based learning, and it's curriculum and instruction. And part of the MET incorporated all of that. But capital assets and equipment is the largest piece of the manufacturing academy at New Britain High School. So many of our partners came together and established a fund at the Community Foundation of Greater New Britain. Part of that fund each year, we raise money with community partners and most importantly our industry partners, and partnered specifically not only with Stanley Black & Decker, Community Foundation, American Savings Foundation, Richard Schooling. There's many partners listed in the Board of Ed memo and on the business plan. But this is the second installment of some of the fundraising we have done. Back in October, we raised roughly $90,000, and tonight we're asking for an additional $115,000 that was raised and is sitting at the Community Foundation to to accept that. And I know I'm talking fast, it's a long agenda, but.
I know, I told them we have like 5 minutes total. If you have questions, jot them down, feel free to email me and I can get you the answers. I wanted to update you a little bit too on our student academic success or just to show you where we're at right now with our iReady assessments, K through 8. Christina?
Good evening, everyone. I know Kristen has the data presentation up and ready to go while she loads that. Just quickly, just to give you kind of an update and connection between academics as well as our most preliminary student achievement data, just so you know, the testing window just ended and closed on Friday the 11th. So this is about 80% of our students who have completed testing. And we're seeing some really good growth. Just so you're up to speed with what's been happening across the district, we've increased our time with teachers in insight-based NBU sessions. Teachers have more coaching opportunities with building coaches. We're focusing on the instructional needs of students. We're utilizing the data-driven approach as well. Teachers are looking at data every 6 weeks to really see where kids are and make those really critical instructional decisions based on what the data is telling them. What's also been happening across the district is that we are now a full-fledged foundations district. All of our elementary schools are now either trained or being trained in foundations and utilizing foundations across the district, as well as our coaches. Our foundation coaches are consistently coming into buildings and not only coaching our teachers, but our administrators as well. So they're participating in the foundations coaching. So when they go in and they're observing phonics instruction happen, they're able to give really good focused feedback. Our district is also continuing our professional development series with administrators around our strategic plan. And we are also conducting learning walks throughout the district, not only partnering with the Department of Academics, but we are also working with our advanced consultants who come in as well and do walkthroughs, and in conjunction with our state walkthroughs. So we're in and out of buildings quite often, giving really focused feedback to administrative teams around instruction, specifically looking at domains 1 and 3. And we're approaching that feedback through an equity lens. Our Department of Academics teamed up with Dr. Sanders and her group to create a learning walk tool that is aligned to the CZT rubric and Elena Aguilar's equity rubric around culturally responsive classroom pedagogy. So we've linked all of that in the superintendent's report as well. Our initial data looks really good compared to last fall. This past fall, we're growing steadily in reading. We have some comparison data in front of you, taking a look at where our scores were at the beginning of the year compared to where they are now. Kristen, if you scroll up, we have reading. We also have our math initial scores. So we're seeing some growth. And we also, in the data presentation, have some information that breaks it down by subgroups. We're looking at the different domains. What you're seeing is fall to winter growth, where kids are falling at or above grade level, 1 year below or 2 years or more below. The most important piece about that, with the 2 or more years, we want to see a decrease in that number. So if you notice in phonemic awareness, we're hitting it out of the park, as well as phonics, as well as high frequency words, vocabulary comprehension. It takes the form of both literature and informational. So our goal is to get the kids that are 2 or more years below that number decreasing, and our numbers at or above grade level increasing. And if you scroll through the rest of the presentation, Kristen and I know I'm moving very fast. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anyone has. We broke it out by subgroup, and we did the same for math. So as you all are aware, we launched our new math curriculum, so we're seeing some movement in math as well.
Thank you, Christina.
Could we ask, Mr. Kane has a question.
Yeah, I'm concerned. You're right. I see a growth in the above or on grade level at 2, and a decrease in the 2 or more. But I'm also concerned about the 1 grade level column. I wouldn't mind it being close together, but when you see it increase going from 20% below grade, 1 grade below level in the fall to 9 points more, that concerns me. Is there any steps being taken to address that big gap, maybe a little closer to at least?
So I think what you're seeing, Tony, is students moving from being 2 grades behind, catching up.
Yes.
And falling
Yes.
into the 1 grade behind.
That's exactly
That makes
correct.
sense.
So what's happening, Mr. Kane, is that we are looking at that decrease in the 2 or more years below. But what that means is that kids are moving into the 1 year below. So we're closing that gap. And so that's why it may look like the numbers are actually increasing when it's really kids are moving from one band to another.
Thank you.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
The other Mr. Kane.
Yes, thank you. Just a question on which grade levels the data represents?
So this is district-wide. We're planning to break down the data a little bit more once the window closes. So after February 11th, when the iReady window closes, we'll have the breakdown by grade as well as subgroups. We're going to be working on that in the upcoming weeks. What's also exciting is our last links testing also closes on March 4th. So we'll have that data as well. So we're going to be looking at, and we're even going to do a comparison to last year where our kids were at being in a hybrid model to this year. We're going to take a look at how our kids are increasing by cohort. We're going to also break it down by subgroup. So we're anxiously awaiting the data window to close on Friday so we can get that work started and we can have that data disaggregated.
And is iReady currently used K-8?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
K-8.
thank you.
Mr. Gay.
I would just say somebody needs to look at the phonics in fall because the numbers add up to more than 100%.
Will
I'll
do.
think about that. We'll look at that.
All right, if no other questions now, again, remember, you can email if you have questions, not a problem.
Mayor,
I
what
just
grade?
wanted,
Good pages.
The second page.
Second page. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh, that's a good, were you set with this?
I got the 100.
They're talking about you go ahead.
Okay. If Lisa Kowecki, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I know Ms. Connolly got an inquiry from one of the city members asking what our partnership was with the youth prevention. And so I thought it would be good, and some of you are new, that we bring up to you just some of the work we've done and what we are doing. So I'd like to introduce Lisa Kowecki. I don't know if she jumped off or is not there. So I'll fill in for her. For the last 6+ years, every couple of years, the city does collect data on our students and the Search Institute. It's an attitude and behavior survey, and we do this with our secondary students. Back in the day, a while ago, it's quite a labor-intensive survey. But fast forward to today, this year we're giving the survey again, and it's a much quicker survey for kids. We're actually rolling it out now in our middle school and our high school. And it gives us information, it gives the city information about what the needs are of our students, or our children, ages 12 to 18 and beyond. So I wanted you to know that we are doing that. I know one parent did ask what the questions were, what they were related to. Sandra, I think you just told me that today, that Brian received an email asking that question. So we are switching to the Youth Voices Count survey instrument because it's also available in Spanish and Arabic. We don't have to do the translations, which is really nice. So kids in grades 6 through 12 will be taking this over the next 10 or so days. In addition to our current health SEL curriculum, pre-K-5, which we developed about 4 years ago, which really focuses on, in the younger grades, teaching kids to advocate for themselves, teaching empowerment skills, all of those sorts of things. In light of some of the incidents that have happened, in Connecticut, in Hartford, and with the fear of different substances, we said we need to have some lessons that are specific to teaching kids to say no to anything that they find on the street if they pick something up. Back in the day, we had DARE. We have Here's Looking at You 2000. That was several years ago, but we really don't have those citywide resources like we once did. So we're partnering now with Tyshonda Wiley, who is with the Youth Prevention Council. She works with Mallory Dupre to come up with some lessons that we will be partnering with our Klingberg counselors to help implement these lessons in the classrooms K through 5. And we just thought it was relevant given where we are and just helping the teachers out with how to address some of these things in the classroom. Education has changed quite a lot, and we mirror what society is, and so we have to make sure we're equipped with tools to help students make better decisions. Also, May is Prevention Month, and we will be partnering again with local youth, the LWP, to plan a series of engaging events to promote prevention awareness for our middlers and our high school students. Mallory was with 5 of our students in DC for the last several days at the Youth Leadership Council. They meet weekly. I know Lisa is attending those. They want to host some kinds of fun events for our middle school kids, dance parties, that kind of thing in May, just to celebrate prevention. And that's basically it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, email me. I can get the information to you. If I don't have it, Lisa will. And that's about it for tonight's report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, committee reports. Curriculum. Mr. King.
Curriculum met last month, and we had a presentation on in-school libraries, which is on page 6 in our packet tonight. And we also reviewed some STEAM data and saw some good trends in creative thinking with cohorts, and then even in spite of the pandemic. So looking forward to seeing how things continue to improve now that we're back in school.
And they're actually going to do the in-school library presentation tonight too.
Yes.
Because it was super cool. Oh, policy. Okay. One just for communication. It was just a
revision of the board communication policy.
right. It was a quick review. Finance and facilities, Mr. Kane.
We met a few weeks ago. We went over some of the purchase orders and upcoming donations, and we had a report tonight.
We are taking in a donation of $20,000 from a Greater Community Foundation. That's kind of like a teacher assistant type of program. Love to take money in, and I'd love to get those students in a teacher track. That would be cool. All right. Personnel.
Yes, we met and we had a discussion or presentation about the teacher's assistant, what the different programs are, and we have some items on the consent agenda tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Lister, have you guys met yet for health and wellness?
Wellness subgroup met, and we discussed 3 things. One was preparing a celebrations menu for teachers who want to host classroom celebrations at birthday parties. And Whitson's is going to be piloting a program at the end of the school year, so they're working on that. School meals focus groups are currently happening at a couple of our elementary schools to understand what kids are thinking of the school meals. And a little more on the Youth Prevention Council. We're discussing whether or not we want to host an event called Hidden in Plain Sight, which would be a parent engagement event that would inform parents of where their children may be hiding drugs and other paraphernalia. And So that's part of the local prevention council and whether or not we can post that in person or do a virtual format for that event.
Great, thank you. Board reports. Anybody have any board reports? No?
Yeah.
Mr. King?
So I have served on as the rep to the CREC board for the last couple of years. If there's somebody who would like to take that on, it's not something that I wedded to. They meet in Hartford once a month over lunch, and they do frequently have the ability to connect remotely. They are pushing a piece of legislation at the Capitol to increase funding for magnet schools, and have basically said that with increasing costs, if they can't get the state to put more money in, that they will increase tuition to ascending school districts, of which we are clearly one. And I'll keep you posted on that. They've got a legislative forum coming up this month.
We'll definitely keep us posted on that, because Mr. Kane, what do we spend now per student to go to CREC?
I would have to look, but it's, I mean, I know last year we spent about $2.9 million on magnet schools. I know tuition hasn't been raised up. I'd have to go back and tell you what I can say.
Yeah, I figured you would know off the top of your head. I just remember looking at it.
Yeah, somewhere about, it's probably in the fives.
That's what I thought. Anybody else? All right, we're moving on to presentations. Chamberlain School. So excited. I'm so excited to hear about it.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman, and thank the board for having us here this evening. My name is Tim Stewart. I'm the chair of the school building committee. With me this evening are Paul Salina, the city's director of support services, Freddie Caricia, who is our architectural rep, our project coordinator for the Chamberlain Project, Brian Grant, who's vice president of Newfield Construction, and Matt Glazer, who is our project manager. Typically, we don't come before you to do presentations, but we thank you for having us. We just did one about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago at the city. Let's talk about that. But typically here, it's usually done by your facilities director, which you haven't had in quite some time. I wanted to touch on a couple of issues before we get into the presentation this evening. One being something that's always of major concern to us at our board level at the school building committee, but to you guys as well, is the security of the facility itself. So as you know, in any construction project, there's always going to be issues with vandalism and things like that. To date, we've been very, very lucky. Smalley had some significant issues where we had to go out, as you remember, and hire some full-time staff to police that project because of the losses that we were incurring there. We've been very lucky here at Chamberlain, and Brian or Matt can elaborate a little bit more, but the only thing we've really experienced there, we had a broken window by a bunch of kids and some trespassing. Other than that, we've lost very, very little on that site, and it's been really great to work with. And I think it's a lot has to do with where it is, and the topography of that particular area is a little bit more difficult for people to come in and out of without being seen. So that's been very, very good on our part. Also, one of the other things I wanted to touch base on before we start was just on the reimbursement issue. We had a meeting last week. Proactive meeting to sit with Alex Ortiz, myself, Paul Salina, and Freddie, and we met with Kermit over at, I don't know, what's Kermit's last name? Thompson at School Facilities to make sure that our projects were being categorized properly in the state's core system, and we were not even up and running on this project yet. So we've been working with Alex and Sherry and other folks to try to make sure that this thing gets done, because the reimbursement stuff is actually very, very critical to a project's completion, because what a lot of people don't realize about some of these projects is that there's a cash flow issue with this stuff. And if you're not getting your reimbursements back in a timely manner, all that cash is back on the city. And it can run out of cash very quickly. And to date, we're over $6 million, I think, in cash out at Chamberlain, and that needs to get addressed as quickly as possible. So with that being said, I'd like to call up Mr. Paul Salina. He's going to take you through the flyover of the site, and then after that, Matt Glazer is going to come and give you a little discussion on some of the still photos of the site, and then we're here to answer any questions you might have about this or any other projects that you might question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Nice to be back here and before you. Long time no see. The Chamberlain Project is going to be a wonderful addition to the East End. I know Chesley Park has been renovated. Some other things are going on in the East End. Aquinas is coming down, and the Chamberlain School this will be a centerpiece for the area. It's dear to my heart. That's the school that I went to as a student when I grew up in the East End. And just to show you how many years have gone by, I mean, I was there in the second year of operation. So it's interesting to see it come down and be rebuilt. And as I noted to the Common Council, when we used to recite the pledges to the flag, back when I was there as a student, there were only 48 stars on the flag. So
Wow.
there's a little bit of history as to how far back we go. I'm not familiar with this Chromebook, so let's take my 2 years. Get this going here.
It was just the other day.
I'm going to try to stop it every so often to show you where we are. Is that up on the screen, or do I have to do something?
Did you do share?
I did share.
This weather's probably making my hair. Really can't see past
It says I'm sharing because I have this. It says stop share up there, so I'm sharing, right? Or do you want to just write them together? Very good, thank you.
Oh, you just unplugged something, Tony. I don't know what it was, though.
Oh, I think it was the sound box.
Right?
I got it.
Generally, we dim the front light.
No, I said Tony. I did say Tony.
Kristen, generally we dim the light near the screen.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, if you're looking at this now at the current front of the school, just to give you a little orientation, this is the, would have been the former or the current front entrance. Here's the main office over here. The portables would have been over on beyond here, and this is where the media center was. And this is the main part of the building. So the media center has been totally taken down, and this is where the new wing will be added, 16,000 square feet. It's a combination of the main office area. The main office area will be on the ground floor with the principal's office, conference rooms, and guidance and so forth. And then on the second floor will be some classrooms. There's going to be entrances both on this side, and as the flyover will get around to the other end of the building, you'll also have an entrance on the other side. So you'll be able to enter to get to the main office both from Sunrise Avenue as well as Newington Avenue. And as we have been doing in all of the school renovations in the last several ones, we've taken into account keeping traffic separate from bus traffic to parent traffic, drop-off and so forth. So this addresses all of these areas. Let's see if we can get this moving here. Just to give you a perspective, this was the old main office. This was the principal's office at this very end, and this was an addition done back in around 2000 when they had added on the cafeteria and some other areas. But this will now be the media center. So this entire wing, where the administrative wing used to be and the main office used to be, will be the media center. Coming down around to the back, and again, to our back would be Newington Avenue.
Oh, can we hold 1 second? Nobody can hear them on virtual. I don't know if it's,
I didn't have the cord this time. Computer's muted.
It said click the mic.
Is that muted? Well,
Yeah, it's muted. Try unmuting yourself and see if it happens.
There we go.
Can you hear us now? Okay,
Yeah, better, thanks.
sorry about that.
We don't want to go back to the beginning, do we?
No, no.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Moving along now, this used to just be a storage area underneath the, this is the gym. This used to be a storage area with a garage door here. Now this is going to be the health center. So the health, this will have a public health academy, not academy, but public health center as well as we have been doing to all of our schools. Around to the back now, this is the, again, the gymnasium up there. These are going to be the, I believe, the parent resource areas as well, so they'll have their own entrance, parking, the back of the auditorium. This is a very large lot, I believe it's 8 acres, and I tell you, if you have taken a ride by, they have been moving dirt left and right, and I have never seen, I mean, hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of dirt that have been moved around. And as Matt will show you in some still photos, the retention basins are huge. They're the size of a football field. Just stop here for a second. Now this is the This is the back of the building. Over here, we went past it a little bit. This was where the old boiler used to be, the heating system, and it was actually below ground level and used to flood quite often. This has been deconstructed and raised to be at ground level, and then another little bit of addition will be a music room and band storage which is adjacent to the auditorium right over here. This is the current cafeteria. The cafeteria, this entire structure is remaining pretty much the same. Obviously, it's going to be totally renovated, but the outside of the footprint is remaining the same for the cafeteria.
Is it also a play area for the kids?
Yeah, these are play areas for the kids, and there'll be separate areas for the the primary grades as well as the older grades. And again, the topography does, slope down to the back, so it's they've done a good job with walkways and some retaining walls and fencing. Now we're coming up to Sunrise Avenue is on our right. Again, this is the kindergartens will be over here on the first floor, so that we just passed the kindergarten playground. They'll also be accessed down. There's a staircase going down here to the lower level, and then we're coming up to the entrance on the Sunrise Avenue side. This will be
The trees.
The trees, yeah. This is the Sunrise Avenue side and parent drop-off. So as you can see, it was a different area from the buses. So it's going to be a better traffic flow. And as always, as we're planning these schools, we do meet with the police department and traffic control to take a look at traffic patterns and parking, and we will have proper signage. This is again, the new wing over here. This is where the old media center was. This parking lot is where the current portables are. Portables are currently being used as the construction trailers, so they have a nice big open area for you to meet. Again, this is the new wing, and since this is very close to the houses that are on Carlton Street, with the exception of those a few windows down there, there's no windows to give privacy both to the neighbors that are going to be relatively close, and then of course into the school as well. We don't want any interference or any distractions from the outside. Now we've come back full circle, so this is the front of the building, and again to the left is the new administrative and academic end, and then to the right was the old area. We just switch, we have Jessica do that, so we won't take time. Yeah.
Oh, the purple and yellow. Oh.
Did you look down arrows?
Okay. Yeah. Down arrows, yeah, up and down arrows. And this is Matt Glacier, who's the project manager, foreman on the site.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. We start with some milestone dates for everybody to let you know where we started and where we're going. We started construction site work in the middle of July of 2021 with abatement and demolition following very soon after, starting the first week of August. We then pushed through the foundations in October, and we started structural steel for the new addition at the end of November, and that got completed in December. So right now we're currently wrapping the building, trying to enclose it, start interior finishes or interior construction with a substantial completion date for the project of December of 2022. Now I'm going to take you through where we started and where we are. So this right here is showing upper level demolition, where at this point we had just taken down some ceiling tiles and started dropping interior doors. Right here is your old media center. This is the excavator demolishing it and removing it from the project. This is detention basin number 1 that Paul was referring to. That's about the size of a football field. So what you see right now is the area being excavated and stone being put down, and all the black apparatuses that you see are the chambers that go underneath to divert the stormwater. Right here is the, right to your left would be auditorium, and looking straight ahead would have been your administration area. Yeah. This is it in the middle of demolition. Right here you're on upper level, area B. This is demolition. All the MEPs have been removed above the ceiling, as well as all CME walls. Right here, you're looking at the west elevation of the building. This is where the media center used to be. It's now gone. We've done window removal at this point, and the next thing that would happen here is the actual remove the brick facade from the building. Right here is your gymnasium. This is showing the demolition of the floor coming up. The concrete floor that was here originally, that was placed back in the 50s, was quite interesting. It had lots of cracks in it, holes. We actually had to place an 1.25 inch slab on top of it, a new concrete slab. So if you walked in there now, it's a nice, perfect slab. Right here, you're looking at, I think close, I can't tell upper from lower from the pictures. This is the upper level again as well, all demolished. Right here, you're now in the lower level C, which is the cafeteria area. What you're looking directly at is where the kitchen was, and your new kitchen's going to be. This is the old oil tank, storage tank that was on site that had to be removed, demolished and removed from the project. It's no longer there. Right here, you're looking at the concrete foundation extension walls that were put in to actually carry the new brick veneer of the building. All these are complete now. This is detention basin number 2, which is more closer to Sunrise Avenue. And this is showing you another step of what I was showing you earlier, where the chambers are actually in the ground now and the stone is getting placed on top of it. This is the underground plumbing new work down in the area C, which is the cafeteria. This will be your new kitchen piping right here. We had to saw cut the concrete, remove it, excavate down, and then put in new plumbing. This right here is a picture of Silcar replacing the slab on grade for the addition. What you see in the background, the big kind of loop that looks like the St. Louis Arch, is the concrete pump, actually pumping the concrete. Here's your crane, getting ready to start the erection for the structural steel on the addition, which will be your new admin area. Here's another picture of the structural steel going up. This is a picture of the topping out ceremony that we had on site for the city of Britain with the Christmas tree on it, as well as the white beam painted with signatures from everybody who attended. Here's another picture of the structure completely up. In this picture, you can see here that where the roof deck is now starting to go on the structure. This picture is kind of dark, but this is your sub-basement. So down here, this used to be a space that was entirely dirt. It's about 18,000 square feet that we put in a 3-inch mud slab, and as well as new MEPs, electrical conduits, and rain meters are going in here. Here's another picture of lower area C. Looking out at the where the kitchen is going to be, here you can see now that we have now placed the concrete slab back in place, and the new plumbing is sticking up outside. This is looking at the cold form metal framing, exterior framing going up on the building. This is on the east elevation, or the west elevation, excuse me, over by where the portable classrooms are. Right here, as Paul had mentioned, the existing mechanical room that you previously had was underground, was more deep underground, and was taking on water. This has been raised 6 feet up, and this is the new slab on grade that's been placed there. This is what the new addition is going to be, which will have that mechanical room with a music room above it and a storage closet going on. Right here is the addition again. This is the upper level of the addition. This is the elevated concrete slab placement, which we got in very early January. It was basically the last good weather day we had for this winter season. This is looking out at the west elevation. This is the drainage coming off of the new addition. We get 12 new rooftop units, heating and ventilating air conditioning units on this building. Each one of those units requires that we add additional structural steel and remove the old structural steel. So this is showing you the first one going in. Right now we have 4 of them complete. This is looking down the upper level corridor at all your new CMU walls. And you can see in the top of the picture is also the painted steel beams that are to support these new rooftop units. This is looking out the addition. You can see now that we've placed that concrete slab on the upper level. What we're putting in here is the roof leaders, drain piping, so we can start the roof. We expect the roof to come in about a week. And in the background where you see the white plastic, that is the temporary heating that we had for the CMU stairwell that we put in. This is looking at the the west elevation, and this is showing you the 3M sheeting that's on there is the air vapor barrier that's going on. The next step is the brick. The brick actually got delivered on Friday, and we should start some brick and veneer installation this week. Right now we are looking at lower level or main level, area A and B, corridor CMU walls going up and hollow metal frames. Right now we're pretty much complete with that. We moved into the addition. This is the upper level installation for the above ceiling ductwork. This is looking at the addition cold form metal framing on the exterior. This is looking at the east elevation where we're putting on the air vapor barrier now as well. In this picture, another thing to touch base on, what you can see here is all the windows on the upper levels, we use plastic to keep in the temporary heat that we have, and on the lower levels where there's going to be security risk, we use plywood. This is the upper level ductwork where we started insulating the ductwork. This is area C wing. This is the 1990s edition, upper level where we started some cold form interior framing for whole corridor walls. This is now looking at the first part of structural steel for doing the new addition off the back from the mechanical room. We have to build this in 3 parts. We erect this steel you see in front of us now. The next thing we do is the lower level, the mechanical room gets a CMU bearing walls. That started today. And as soon as we're done with those walls, we come back and we put up the rest of the steel. This is looking at the addition again, showing now that the cold form metal framing is up. We are now sheeting that. That's what the green board is sheeting. And that's the last picture for the presentation. Any comments or questions?
Thank you. Mr. Kane?
2 questions. One related to the retention areas, the retention fields. Are those going to be
Detention, yes.
Sorry?
There's detention system.
Detention. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are those going to be grassy areas, or will those be off limits to kids? Or
Nope.
Okay, we'll be able to utilize those as
Correct.
recreation fields.
You just can't build on them right now.
Right.
You can't build any structures on top of them.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
The other question was related to the gym. I know on previous projects we've had some issues with gym floors. I know you wouldn't have knowledge of that unless you worked on them. But what kind of surfaces going in the gym? Just obviously thinking ahead so we don't have any of the similar issues we faced in the past.
It's a wood floor.
Wood floor? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because usually we go through the finance, our facilities director, but
I just have one question.
for now, right. Ms. Parker?
Yeah, I just have one question.
Yeah.
Is the entrance to the site the same in exit, or are there new ways to get in? And I mean the street itself, the road where the school is.
Still on Sunrise and still on, what is that main road?
Newington.
Newington Avenue?
Yeah, your Newington Avenue entrance for the school when it's finished is going to be your bus route, and the Sunrise entrance is going to be your parent-student drop-off.
Mr. Kane?
First, teacher entrance. Where would the teachers be entering? So the big park in my back is for teachers, but which entrance they be using?
I would put it up as Sunrise. I mean, Newington, right?
Same.
Yeah, Newington Avenue. Yeah, access that park.
And one of my concerns is always school safety. Are safety improvements being made over other buildings in this project?
Or any difference?
School safety.
School safety and safety design.
Well, you've got all the cameras outside the building. All the entrances have white swipes, so only teachers can enter it. So you program in certain ways that the doors are open. When the school opens, then all the doors get closed. Only way you can have is if the teachers have those swipes to get into it. You go to the main entrance, and then we have a pay form that you talk to the person and they let you in. Once you get into it, they have to go through the space they can't walk through. So they have to report it, and that person can allow them to enter into the school, otherwise they can't enter it. In the hallways, there are cameras. Every hallway, there are cameras all over the place.
And another question too was mentioned about possibly an expansion of the building to allow maybe for the early learning center to move in there, or so is there any possibility for future expansions on the project?
Not for, I think the site on inner city is very limited. There is no space to put something on it. If you just look at it, even when the detention system is, there is a play area, and then we've got 2 playground equipments. The other side is a parking lot. So we don't have any open space left to build anything from that. And when you do pre-K or something, they have to do on the lower level. They can't have it on
We'll part comment and then wait. Let me just say this. So it was really funny when you had just said a minute ago that usually what we had gotten were reports from the former facilities manager, who I had the opportunity of watching actually would leave before the meat and potatoes of the reporting. So then it was kind of confusing to me when we would come here what he was actually reporting on. So what I wanted to do was to actually thank the SBC crew, because they really took the time at every single opportunity, at every single meeting. Do you want to see anything? Do you want to come over? It was like show and tell. Do you want to come see, and have made it totally transparent? You want to come, you want to see, you want to actually, however, have always been willing to answer the questions that I've had. And of course, my background is in construction, so I'm always asking questions. But what I wanted to say was thank you, before I say thank you, just going to the meetings in the afternoon, but really sitting over here at the Board of Education, hearing what you're saying, and actually for them all to have the benefit of hearing it, because what they were hearing was not the full story. What you're giving them is actually the full story with pictures to go. And so thank you so much.
We request that any board members or any time you want to come and walk the place, we'll go out with it.
And you get a free hard hat.
Yeah. Can I have you guys get one of these Google sound boxes for your meetings? Because I personally cannot hear you online. Never. I hear mumbles, so that would be like a good piece of technology maybe to get.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really have the highest level of technology.
I know. Tell me about it.
Meetings, but we'll do that.
I know. I was just thinking, I think it was Desiree said you should use that because then we could probably hear. I'm like, oh, that would be beautiful.
What's the total cost of the project going to be?
Well, if we can use your system here, that'd be great. I mean, honestly, because we meet primarily here. Otherwise,
why not?
we do periodic meetings at the site just to make sure we're all up to stuff with what's happening.
Yeah.
So,
It's not
but
used
while we're working here, if somebody can work with us here to use it, we'll do it.
I don't see why not. Save some bucks. Is there anybody here that can talk about the enhancements for the hearing impaired?
Yes, we met with Ms. Dana Clark, and in the design phases, so we have developed the rooms for that enhancement specifically, and we have like an enclosed prefab room within the room, and when we got the documents back, we sent it back to her to make sure that she's okay with whatever we are providing, no issues. She checked with her staff and sent us back, said this is exactly what I want. So we have developed a specific room with enhancement for them to take care of it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
The questions was.
Well, I think Tony TK, did you have a question? No.
I just wanted to request a 48-star flag in honor of Mr. Salino.
Oh. Put it
I got one. You can borrow it.
Oh, Mr. Gay.
I just want to follow up on Mr. Kane's question about preschool. I know that the state has approved funding, but if there's not a place to do it at this site, has there been any looking yet at other places where we might be able to do that? Because Roosevelt is not.
Well, we are doing a feasibility study now for homeschool. So we will certainly look into that side, see if there is a possibility. Like I said, when you go from inner city, it's very difficult to find open space. And we'll certainly look at it, see if there is a possibility.
Holmes is probably smallest piece of property out there for a school. It's small.
It's the smallest.
Lance?
Can I add a couple things? First off, I'm glad you bring that up because I know there was some discussion about a $25 million addition to preschool at Chamberlain. Unfortunately, nobody knew about it. And had they known, they could have maybe prepared for that or designed it as a part of the system, and they did not. So that being said, I don't know if the money still sits there, if it's approved or what it is, but it never came formally through the process to get to the city so everybody at our level can actually do something with that. So is there an opportunity to do something else? Yeah, absolutely. We've got 2 or 3 more schools you're going to be doing in the near future. And as we progress and do the feasibility studies that Freddie said, sure, you can take a look at that on any alternate campus. And I think, honestly, just from my perspective, and I've got a pretty extensive background in construction, I'd look at a third party. I'd look at another school somewhere and try to rehab something you're already dumped a ton of money into, like Holy Cross or something like that, or even St. Francis again, where you can make it amenable to a preschool project very easily, but you've already made an investment in it. So I'm sure they'll be for sale. All you got to do is ask. So, but we'd be happy to help with that.
Mr. Marino.
Yeah, there was a mention very early on in the presentation about reimbursements, and it sounded like there was an issue. Is that on?
Well, in order for the district to get the proper reimbursements from the state of Connecticut, you have to be online through the core system in the state of Connecticut, through the facilities department. The state core system is basically where their requisition systems and all the budgets and everything flows through. We were not online there. So I know we've been working with the folks at the state and Sherry, Tyler, and facilities She's been working with Michelle Nixon, to try to get that up and running. But it's critical to make sure that that happens because that cash flow issue will come back to haunt us at some point in time. If we're paying for an entire project of $50 million out of cash, it's not going to happen.
As of this morning, Michelle sent an email to Sherry, and they've set up a Zoom meeting on 10 o'clock in the morning, so they can talk and hopefully she can guide them through. So hopefully by Thursday we'll know
Okay.
where it is.
Doesn't that usually happen in the beginning of the project, like before you even put shovels in the ground?
When you get approvals from everybody to do the project, before you even start, you should have that up and running through the core system. And I know we've been trying to work with the state to try to get that done. And there's some other issues, I think, with some other projects and closeouts and things like that, with some other dollars that are still due the city. Some significant dollars at Smalley and even a little bit of Gaffney. And my understanding is that you're trying to work with a third party to try to get that stuff done. Well, the sooner the better.
We agree 1,000,000%.
How much is it, do you know, a total by chance?
Oh.
Smallest significant.
Yeah.
I want to say is how much? 26 million, and Gaffney was about 2.5, 2.6 million. And Chamberlain is almost at 10 today.
We have a list, Mr. Marino, of like all of the open projects that we can go through for
What does
sure.
that fall on? I'm just curious.
Well, I think we've had that conversation a few times of some of these go back to 1995. I think it's both. I think it's between central office and City Hall on how to close those out, because that's my exact question.
Not the process for it, that's what I'm just trying to.
Right, same, because that was going to be my next question. Who usually opens up that in the system for the state to open up that pipeline?
Typically, it's a facilities department issue, and it was always done through Mr. Moore and Gail West and the folks here took care of all that stuff for the city. I mean, if moving forward, if that capacity does not exist, then we'd have to look at the next project and probably hiring some sort of a third-party owner's rep to handle that stuff for us and make sure that it got done. So it would add another level of cost to us that previously had been being borne by you folks.
Yeah, there's probably just an understanding of who does, because those projects that were not closed have been open for several years under Mr. Moore. So it's the opening and the closing.
Everything's been closed except for now Gaffney and
Smalley.
Right, the other ones, going back to the 1990s, I believe, have been closed.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Mr. Kane.
Well, before I ask my question, I want to echo Tim. I kind of agree with your comment that we probably look at a third party, like maybe St. Francis or purchasing Holy Cross outright and converting that rather than an extension. But what is the final cost of this project going to be versus the budgeted cost? Are we coming in under budget, over budget, or?
Chamberlain?
Yeah,
under the budget.
So what is the cost of these projected?
47 million.
The total cost, including all the soft cost and everything, it's somewhere between 3 to 4 million less.
So there's still a contingency line item in there that we're still pretty comfortable with, as well as a little bit of additional dollars that are always built into the project to make sure we can absorb any unforeseen expenses.
And what's the reimbursement percent for this project going to be?
95%. Yeah. Now, you mentioned also an issue with security or potential issue with security. Now, do you mean, did we have physical security guards at?
We did. At Smalley, we ended up hiring a third party, a company to come in and sit there and babysit the project basically for us on nights and weekends because of just the vandalism that took place on that site and some of the losses that we were incurring. Here is not so bad, actually. We had a broken window in one of the old portables and just some kids just trespassing on the site. There's a couple of cameras on the site that we put up there just to make sure we can see. And we turn the footage over to PD just to, if they can find the kids, just to give them a little bit of talking to and making sure they don't come back, so.
And maybe as the weather gets warmer, we get the body out there.
It'll happen as the summer comes and the kids are out of school, they'll definitely come back.
As you look at future sites, are you looking at the possible security issues there, future sites?
We always do. When we design a project, we put security as a top priority.
And we had met with the police department. The traffic division came over and we advised them the first time there was a break-in. And so they have stepped up patrols. And they do stop by the area to look at it, especially on weekends.
Yeah, chief of the staff have been very cooperative.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, I know usually it would have been Mr. Moore or Mr. Dion, and now the new one will give us this type of presentation, but I appreciate you guys coming out and showing us, because it's been a while. I love to see what's happening.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Can't wait for like the people to open. No. All right. These guys have been inside.
Okay, I believe I'm next. Are you ready for me?
You are. Oh. We have a presentation for Arts for Learning Community Program for the KEY program.
Perfect. Yep, so I'm Danielle Singleton. I'm the coordinator of special education. I oversee our district autism programs and early childhood special education. This year, our students with autism in the KEY program have had the exposure to the arts through our community partnership with Arts for Learning. It's been extremely beneficial for our students. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Michael Parker. He's the Executive Director for Arts for Learning. He'll tell you more about this. So welcome, John Michael.
Thank you, Danielle. Folks, my name is John Michael Parker. As Danielle said, I'm the Executive Director of Arts for Learning Connecticut. Thrilled to be here and appreciate your time. I first just want to thank you for all the support and the opportunity for partnership that Chamberlain has experienced. So we're a nonprofit headquartered in Camden that provides arts and learning services across the state. Our mission is to inspire young people and expand their learning through the arts. What that means is that we bring talented teaching artists into schools and classrooms and summer programs and after-school opportunities and community centers to help young people develop their positive youth development skills, social emotional learning capabilities, and overall life outcomes. That's what we're focused on, using the arts as a pathway to student growth. So we've been thrilled to get to partner with the district for a long time through the Summer Learning Experiences program over the last few years, adding on the Level Up this year when that expanded, this program at KEY, which we're thrilled about. We've also done work at the Transitional Center and even some after-school work in the district at Small. And so I just want to say that we are thrilled to be able to meet the needs of the school and the community as they've changed over the pandemic, and to provide teaching artists to help serve your students and partner with your teachers in a more effective way. And we're thrilled to do that in new ways into the future and excited to keep learning. So I'm going to introduce one of those teaching artists that does magic in classrooms, and that's Adelka Bolak. Go ahead, Adelka.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here and sharing a minute of your time. My name is Adelka Bolak, and I am the teaching visual arts with the KEY program, and it's been really exciting to see such great strides that students have been making in the classrooms both at Smith and Gaffney Elementary. And I've been a puppeteer for 20 years now, and I've seen a lot of the positive effects that puppetry has had in the classroom and for student engagement, and to create a really supportive and caring environment within the classroom. And it feels like we open all of our art classes with a hello song with a puppet, and it creates a really welcoming atmosphere for the students who sometimes have trouble communicating with people as much as, the puppet is a vehicle essentially for communication to help our kiddos with autism especially. So it's really exciting that with all of my experience that my sort of experience has been backed up very recently by a study that was done by the Yale Child Study Center. And the publication came out in August of 2021, and the research was funded also by Cheryl Henson, the daughter of Jim Henson, right? And it happened for about 5 years, and hopefully it's going to continue as well, because they've made a lot of really great, a lot of really positive sort of reinforcement for the work that I do in the classroom and everything. So the study says that, that even though children with ASD don't necessarily focus on a human subject for very long, that as long as their TD peers would, so that's traditionally developing in their study, They say that unlike humans, expressive and verbal puppets attracted the attention of ASD children at the same rate as teeny children. So with the work that I'm doing in my classroom, I really feel like we're leveling out the playing field with these pretty amazing little characters and everything. So thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it off to Craig Norton, my colleague who teaches music. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Adelka. Hello, everyone. I'm going to introduce a video that really tells the story of what we're doing in the pathways and key classrooms at Gaffney and Smith currently. I use drums and percussion and musical instruments with the kids on a regular basis, and what we've found, what we found is that the rhythm-based music and instruments really connect with these kids and teach them not only music skills, but also all kinds of life skills. They're listening to each other. They have to control themselves in order for it to be a musical experience. And what's really amazing is that, when it comes together and when they play together, which is a life skill for them, it's an important life skill for them. When they work together, it's musical and it's very satisfying, and they really feel it. And so the beautiful thing about this film is it really does tell the story. You're going to see a lot of kids hugging their drums. That's proof positive that the vibration of these instruments and the act of making music together is something that's incredibly visceral, and they get to experience it on so many different levels. So, go ahead and roll it, Danielle.
Sound.
Is there supposed to be sound?
There should be sound, but it's just music.
I think there's a lot of latency.
This little boy is in our Saturday program. It's program.
All right, so I'm hearing the music was not working. Do you want me to try it one more time?
No, I think it's okay. Are you able to share it on like the Google Drive so we can watch it?
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Greg, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think you're on mute now.
There we go. Yeah, that's part one. Part two is getting extended, and lots more pictures to share. And that's already, we'll share that with you as well. Thank you for this opportunity to work with your kids. They're amazing.
Yes,
I
thank you.
feel terrible that the sound didn't come across because it is really a great video, but we will forward that to you.
Yeah, definitely, please.
Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. King?
2 questions. How often do students receive the programming? And then we'll let you answer that question first before I go into the one.
So I believe Adelka is in Smith and Gaffney 2 days a week at each school, and I'm at Smith 2 days a week.
Okay.
So they get art with Adelka and music with me.
Okay.
Yes, it's 2 days on a 6-day schedule.
Okay, all right. And then what kind of benefits have the students seen in the classrooms, teachers, changes that teachers have noticed in students after receiving the art and music sessions?
Yeah, I think they're seeing overall increased student engagement, which is amazing. The students are, excited when the artists come into the classroom. They can't wait, to get started, and to see them really connect and with the music and the arts that we're providing is very exciting.
Thank you.
Santana.
So, quick question. Anytime you say pathways, I'm like, ooh. So, is it only at, there were the 2 schools, Smith and Gaffney, but are those the only 2 schools that are being, that have this opportunity in their school? Those are the only 2, even though we have Key and Pathways at other programming, at other schools?
Yes, we'd like to grow it. So presently, as a pilot, we have Gaffney and Smith included in this, but we would like to grow it.
Okay, because I'm always curious about how they actually measure the success of it, not just, I heard your answer and I get it, but just being able to see how many students we're actually offering it to, how many are actually taking it, and then what the feedback is from the families as well. If you could follow up with that, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm just saying, as a Pathways mom, I'm always looking at our other parents seeing the same thing that you see, that we see.
Yes, presently at Smith, we have 3 Pathways classes that are participating as well.
So she's there 2 days, I'm saying she, the Adelka, Miss Adelka was there, so she's there 2 days a week. She's spending like the whole day there, hitting all the classes, all 3 classes?
Correct.
That sound about right?
And we have
Okay.
other artists that are also included in this.
Okay. All right, well, if you could follow up with the information, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Lestro.
I just have a comment. As someone who's worked alongside Arts for Learning staff in summer programs, I just want to say your staff are excellent. They engage really well with the kids. They love the program. And I think it's a testament that you've been working with our district for a number of years in summer and after school. And I know just from seeing your programs firsthand that they're great.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it.
I agree.
Our staff.
Are there other programs? Well, no, because I know that the program that my son participates in is offered during the summer as well, but I didn't see him on this dashboard, and that's Yang's. He also donates back to the district. He makes a donation every year.
The karate.
Yeah, he goes to the transition center, yeah, but he participates in the programs as well in summer. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to watching the video.
Yes, we'll definitely forward that link.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Item C, in-school libraries. This was super cool. Too bad Mr. Selena didn't stay for this one.
I'm going to present at proceedings.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to highlight the impact that funding has had on our library collections. We have been able to build a more diverse collection and increase the average publication dates. I know I only have 5 minutes, so I'll briefly go over the presentation, which is also available in the board's packet. Next slide, please. So over the last few years, we've been working on weeding the collections to remove dated information, damaged books, and resources that are not culturally responsive. Coupled with purchases of new books, weeding ensures that our collection is updated and relevant. Next slide, please. Building a culturally diverse collection of resources allows all of our students to see themselves in the materials they read for pleasure and research. Next slide, please. This slide is a sampling of titles that we have weeded out of our collections.
I don't know who was in curriculum, but like if you look at some of the titles, they're pretty wild. Look at the computer.
Next slide. And this slide is a sampling of titles that we have been titles we've been adding to the collection. Next slide, please. So our students have had a positive response to the books that we've been purchasing. This slide actually included some quotes from our students. Next slide, please. So in addition to the books that we have for our students, each school library has a staff resource collection that includes books that support the readiness and English language arts units, as well as a professional collection that was curated by the talent department. Next slide, please. So a number of resources such as the American School Library Association, award winners, local interests and authors are reviewed when ordered new books. Next slide, please. So this graph compares the average publication year of our collections from 2013 to 2021. Schools have increased the publication date of the collection between 6 and 19 years. Next slide, please. So, Volatility category analysis. This is a resource used to analyze both the school collections and the orders. This allows us to see the number of books in each category as well as the average publication date. Next slide, please. This chart compares the average publication date and the percent of the collection that fall under one or more of the category areas from the previous slide. And then the next slide, please. So this slide, as well as the following slide, are resources used for creating, maintaining, and reading the school collections. Next slide, please. Thank you for the opportunity to highlight the collections. I appreciate your time. That concludes my presentation.
Ms. Santana has a question.
Because I love literature.
I know.
So when we were speaking during subcommittee, and you had mentioned that we actually target local authors, did you have names of local authors that you actually are currently working with, or really just curious?
So over the years, we've had a few authors. I'm sorry, I just drew a blank on the name now. Staff members within the district that have written books, as well as we've had a student who wrote a book, and other community members. So that is one of the things that we will continue to work on. I apologize for not having names off the top of my head. I can get that for you.
Okay, yeah, if you could. And then also, what diversity looks like, because what we were talking about in subcommittee, and I saw that you carried over the same information over here in the category analysis. And at the time we were talking about it, but just kind of carrying over the question because I didn't get an answer. What really makes it diverse, or just kind of how we're meeting the needs of our students? Is that a fair question?
So the categories that are identified through Volat, again, we use all of them. They're looking at characters, content, any of the information that's within the book that would categorize it as such. Not all books have been categorized by the publishers.
So does that start with us when we're looking for the books, or does it? And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Does that start with the teachers and what they identify that they're looking for, or the kids that say what they're looking for? How do we check off Oceania regions or Muslim America?
So I utilize that as I'm ordering. I use that to look at what books I have on my list to order to see if I have representation of all the different groups that we have in our district, as well as the various categories that are on that list. In addition, I can take the entire section and put it into that system and have it tell me, what do we have, what are we lacking? So it allows you to really pinpoint areas, and then we always take student and staff recommendations. Those are always top high on the list for what we get.
Okay,
those are in the moment too. So if a library assistant has a student who requests a particular book, then that library assistant has the capacity to put it into a list so that when we're ordering, we're able to meet those needs right away.
What does that turnaround time look like? I'm a student, I walk in there and I say I would like a book on, my friend's a local author, so let's just say his book, he writes books about social and emotional learning for young kids. So if I wanted to get his book, I walk in there, I say to the library assistant, can you put this on the list? About how long can I expect it to take to actually see that book?
It's going to depend on if it's available through the vendors that we use. We have had some local authors that we've purchased from Barnes & Noble or Amazon because it's not available through the traditional through Follett or Firmerbound or one of the companies that we use. So it does depend on its availability and whether or not we can get it. That answers your question.
Right? If somebody comes in and they request a book, then we're going to go into Destiny and we're going to check and we're going to see if we already have it or if another library already has it. And if so, then we'll get it a little bit faster. If it's a matter of ordering it, depending on where we are in our ordering process, it might be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. It's not immediate turnaround necessarily if we've already made our purchases for the library visitors.
But if the students identify that they'd like that particular book or something in that subject matter, you're able to let them know, hey, listen, I do have it I don't have it right here, but I have it at, I don't know, just throwing it out there, Jefferson. You have it somewhere else, you're going to be able to get it, and about how long you can estimate for them until they actually get it. I'm just trying to make sure that at least if the kid makes their request in September, we're not waiting until May 15th to be able to get them a book that they were interested in reading at the beginning of the school year. Do you know what I'm saying? That's really what I'm curious about. And then last and final, we also have in the city of New Britain, we have a Latinos in Action program. Do you ever work with that program to see what you can order that they could integrate into their programming for Latino, Hispanic American?
I have not worked directly with them. I could definitely write that down and reach out to them.
Okay.
Usually the teachers are pretty communicative with the library assistants and or with Christy about materials that they go along too. So while we can reach out, communication can also be good. So
yeah, let me make that my little request because they told me that I'm just curious because what is the foundation of a lot of conversational Spanish, is having that support of books and poetry.
So they're saying that they put in requests for books and they don't,
It's never been
they don't
offered.
collaborate.
Never been offered. So he's just going off of like a dictionary to be able to teach them Spanish words a day.
Oh, let me give us a message.
That's what I said. I said, let me know. Listen, I'll have Gloria de Burgos in every classroom by the time we're done. But just saying, I want everybody to get the benefit of Puerto Rican poetry.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Before you go.
Oh, Tony Kane. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks again, Christy. Just a quick question. I remember when it came through finance and board agenda a few meetings back when we approved purchases of the books for the library. Do we have a comprehensive list of books that have been weeded and purchased?
So yes.
Okay.
I have a list by school.
Okay. Would that be able to be shared?
So yes, I can do that.
Okay, great.
Are you looking for just like a sampling, so you can see like an elementary?
Yeah, elementary, middle, high.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
Can I get that list too? None of my friends believe me that we had an automotive book.
Come on, that was great. The computer book?
Yeah.
Like, those things should just stay just to stay.
Or tune your car.
I know, right?
I want to be trying to do the right answer.
We got auto repair.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
What's that?
We have an auto repair center.
I don't think at the auto repair center they'd ever work. It was like a 74 Dart.
Yeah.
It was some like backward car that nobody was rolling.
Collectible items now, 74 cents.
All right, so any other questions about the libraries? All right, thank you so much for that. I appreciate, and thank you for sticking to your 5-minute time limit.
Thank you.
Appreciate
That
that.
was like speed round.
Oh. All right, so consent agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything off the consent agenda? Mr. Kane?
Yes, items H, L, N, and O.
H, L, N is in Nancy, and O.
Correct, yep.
Oh, so that's the instructional coach. Pyramid model. Summer bridge program. All right. Anybody else? Nothing else? All right, so we'll start with item H. I have a motion.
A motion to approve new position request for a 1.0 full-time district-wide instructional coach.
Second.
Discussion.
So, I just had moving forward with all of the positions that we've added over the last couple of years. As you know, I expressed a concern last meeting that we're going to be hitting a cliff, a fiscal cliff, as far as how do we sustain, what do we do moving forward. We know we're going to have new administration, new superintendent, new assistant superintendent in 6 months. My concern is as we're creating new positions, where is that leaving new administration who is stepping in? Reading the packet and reading the information about the instructional coach, I see the value. There's been results shown. I wasn't unfortunate at the personnel meeting or the finance meeting, but I do see the value in the coach. My concern is just creating another new position and wondering if this is a position that can be someone moved from a current position into this one rather than creating a new position and potentially handicapping the new superintendent, whoever comes in.
Did you hear the question?
I'm not sure. Is that a question for Kevin or?
Probably for Amy, Ms. Anderson, and maybe Kevin Kane.
Well,
probably it's a group discussion.
So like a combination. Okay, I wasn't really sure.
Yeah.
So right now the position is very specific to supporting the implementation of foundations, and so that also requires somebody who's trained in Wilson Reading System to step into that position to do that. So in this instance, as we expand and I know what you're saying, Mr. Kane, about the shifting from one position to another. It's not the value in the position itself, it's the concern about where the funds might come from to sustain long-term. I think that I understood you correctly when you were describing that. But in this instance, as we move and increase the number of teachers that need training, it's sort of like an immediate need, and then we could look down the road, if we had to shift at that point, once we had sort of trained and onboarded and supported all of the teachers within the 5-year plan rollout for foundations, to look to do that, to kind of, like you said, like either shift or scale back or something like that. We would just have to, but like for the plan for implementing and training for foundations and kind of getting our teachers prepped to the point where we want them to be to provide that foundational reading instruction that's so critical.
Amy, you just muted yourself.
Whoops. Immediate need in the near future. How much did I cut off on
Just a minute.
That's just a second. Just a couple.
Just the last sentence? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Phew. Okay, sorry. I gotta watch where my cursor floats. It's going over the microphone there. So, I hope that answered part of the question, and I don't know if the finance end of it, of talking about like the shift in the future, that would just have to be we'd have to cross that, kind of address that when it occurred.
Can I just ask a follow-up to try to clarify?
Sure, absolutely.
So this is a two-part question. Do you have someone in mind in-house to step into this position? And if you do, will their position be backfilled?
I'm sorry, say that second part again?
If you do have someone in-house, will that position that they vacate then be filled, or will that position just remain open for the time being? Because that would kind of solve the issue of creating a new position, but then having to fund an old one that they vacate to enter the new position.
Somebody would have to fill that position that they're currently in.
Okay.
That answer it?
Is that a classroom position that they're in?
It's a STEAM position.
Okay. All right. So yes, they have student contact.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kevin Kane.
Which one?
So, this is obviously a concern that's not just about this
We did talk about
position.
this last month. I mean, I know the question came up, the position itself, and I said it makes a lot of sense. And, just because the board adopts or approves the position doesn't mean it will be funded. Now, right now, the question is, where's the funding to come from? I know it's placed in the local. Right now, I don't have a place for it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the funds are available. Over 4 or 5 months, every time we add something or whatever, something maybe needs to be taken off or something, or it can stay. I don't have an answer for you tonight. So the question is this position or any other position can be adopted in next year's budget? There's no answer to it. I thought I was clear in January there was no answer.
So once you do your final, once our budget gets approved, you're gonna do your final budget presentation, and then that's what we would adopt.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I can't sit here tonight or stand here tonight and say yes. I mean, I know when I look over the next several months, there have been positions that have been added on. Some may have been in the budget, some may not have been in the budget. I'm gonna start costing those up. I also realize that there may be additional costs or there may be some additional reductions. I mean, every year when you look at a budget, you get your health insurance. You also get things like MERS, which is a state retirement plan for somebody like myself. If the state comes up with a higher percentage increase than I put in the budget, something has to flow out. So, to look at me trying to say I'm going to have a magic number, I'm going to tell the board right here, this position, the other position will be next year's budget. I can't. But I'm just saying, if you approve a position, doesn't mean that position or some other position doesn't stay in the budget. And that's my stance in January. It's fine. Approve the position, but just because you approve the position doesn't mean that position or some other position doesn't stay with it. And that's a question we're going to have to ask ourselves. I mean, there's no answer tonight, so I'm not going to say yes, that position or some other position. I can't answer that.
Thank you. Mr. Kane.
Okay, yes, you know my scissors are ready, Mr. Kane. They're reallocating. But I just want to, first off, compliment Ms. Anderson. She made an excellent case of why the position is needed. But I also want to kind of echo TK's stance too. I'd like to see a plan for an exit strategy, like a specific timeline. If you keep saying about the next 3 years, we can make a plan of maybe some benchmarks and an exit. When the grants run out, what are we going to do? You know, how can we tell this position is still worth it at the end of 3 years? Like, you want to increase reading to X% by the end of the 3 years, and then we know when we have to decide who we afford to the position once the grant runs out, then we have something to go by.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just clarify things. I know last month this position came forward to place in local. At the end of the day, it's going to be placed in local, or it can be moved to SRR, which has 1 to 2 more years. And that's where I'm coming from. In my position, saying if you guys really want that, we'll figure out what to do. It may go to SRR, and you're correct. In a year or two from now, when we look at the SRR grant, things are going to fall out, and then the decision is what stays. So my proposal or my recommendation tonight, if you really want it, and I can't fit in the local, we'll put it in the SRR. I'm not to be the right answer for academics, but it's the right answer for a short time period. You know.
Right. And it goes along with the recovery plan that we put in place to use those funds.
Yes, I mean, there's a good chance I'm not going to be able to get everything in the budget. That's what I'm trying to tell you tonight.
Right. Mr. Marino.
I think, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more so operating under the idea that there's going to be a change in the district overall in about 6 months or less. And is this something that we push forward or wait until new leadership comes in and does a broad overview of everything we have and decides that it is or it isn't the proper move moving forward? That's where I got where you were going with it. Not necessarily being concerned about finding someone or paying it, but
Yeah, it's a combination of those two things, and again, something may have to be given up in order to fund this position. If and again, I see the value in it. It's not the position itself. I understand the value. I understand adding another grade level. I also know that by the time this person gets moved into the position, trained up, there's 3 months left in the school year. How much, is it necessary for this school year? As far as
I'm sorry,
where we're going.
this is for next school year.
This is next school year. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, no,
Okay.
we're not proposing for this.
Okay.
My question is to be more for personnel too. Assume, ideally, we approve this position tonight. How much time do you need from when we approve till a person has to be hired? So if we were to wait 6 months, would you have enough time, or wait till June or July, would you have enough time to get this position filled by the start of the school year? Or do you need more time than a couple months?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kane, can you ask that last part of the question again?
How much time would you need between approval to the start of the school year? When is the absolute last day you need to have your approval to fill it for September?
Oh, well, when we can fill it internally, then we can open the posting for the vacated position so that the principal at the school isn't kind of left with having to scramble to fill that vacancy. That was sort of my thinking around that, because sometimes we get caught with, waiting or having an empty position, and it's last minute, and you know how that goes when the people have already kind of accepted positions in other places, and we're left with a vacancy. So knowing ahead of time now, even though it's not until September, but the principal has the opportunity to get someone into that what's going to be an anticipated vacated role is helpful and allows kind of for a smooth transition and not any kind of gaps for the start of the school year.
Ms. Dawkins, you probably have to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Doesn't say you're muted. Oh, no,
Yeah,
yes, it
she's
does.
muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
What is it, control what?
Control C.
Control E?
Okay,
There you
I'm
go.
open now. Good evening, everyone. I was, in lieu of listening to the positions and openings, I had another question. I don't know if this is the right timing for it, but as you have these openings that become available, vacancies and transitions, I was wondering how that process happens. Are those positions advertised, or you have identified persons within that you want to seek, and how soon, do those advertisements go out? And as we're looking at open vacancies, as we're looking at assistant superintendent and also the superintendent positions, I'm wondering how that intermediate or that interim transition happens. Is it advertisements that go out, or do you have somebody internal that you look at regarding that as well?
That might be, I don't know if Mary Ellen is on, but that might be a topic for personnel, because oh, she's here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I think, Ms. Dawkins, it's a two-part question that you asked, if I heard you correctly. One is the process for the internal, external postings, for example, a coach. We follow the contract in regards to posting protocols, and that follows that it would be posted internally and then externally, depending on also the time of year. If we're in the middle of doing transfers and there are postings coincidentally like there were last year when we had many openings. So we follow, protocol, process, procedure, as well as following the contract as it relates to posting. In regards to central office level positions, as it relates to, I think you said the assistant superintendency, I'll defer to the incoming superintendent in regards to that position and take direction from them.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, so item H, there's a motion on the floor unless there's any other questions. All right, all those in favor of item H, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
4. Motion carries. Oh, item L, approve bid waiver. Oh, sorry, have a motion. So who's the motioning?
Motion to approve bid waiver for pyramid model coaching and training in the amount of $12,000.
There a second.
Second.
Discussion.
This will be Amy, if not Amy, Mr. Badenhop.
Any questions, discussion?
I was just looking for a little more information. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to that committee meeting, so just wanted a little more information on it.
We did have a presentation on it some months back, but it's an SEL model for early childhood professionals and children.
I'm here if you have any questions or if you want me to elaborate a little more.
Could you please? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So we received a grant from the Community Foundation of Greater New Britain to implement the pyramid model throughout our school readiness programs or our preschool programs. 2 of our programs had started at the state level during a free cohort in 2019, and so they had the ability to kind of go through this state leadership and get the support at every level. And so I was privileged to be a part of that as a coach through the Office of Early Childhood. And so when I saw how they did it, and they reached out to the leadership team, they trained them, they trained coaches, they trained teachers, and really helped them to implement this model for social and emotional supports. When I saw how well they did that and the data that they can transcribe from that, I couldn't help but apply for the grant. So that's what I did. We got that for our school readiness programs because I wanted all of them to have the ability for these supports, especially during this pandemic, right? And so the grant overall was $25,000 for specific trainings related to the pyramid model. And then the $12,000 that we're clearing for tonight, hopefully clearing, is specific to coaches coming in and supporting several aspects. So supporting me as the liaison and an overall arching plan to spread it out across not only our school readiness programs, but also to some private programs that might be interested, and then our family child care programs as well in New Britain, so that we can hit some different aspects of our community. It also will pay for trainings and coaching for directors or coaches that are in those positions at each agency that we have, and additionally coaching for our teachers as they work with our children. So this is not something that's common for early childhood, for our preschool programs, but it's certainly something that's needed. So we have this grant. We reached out. I sent bids, an RFP out rather, and 2 people came back. East Con was one who has several of the trainers for this model, and another one was an individual who does not have the capability nor the training. So it was kind of an easy thing to do, right, to accept East Con. And so we've got a good plan. I'm trying to move forward once it's approved through here to really give these good coaching supports to our agencies in the community.
Thank you.
Can you just briefly describe the pyramid model, what that means, what it looks like?
That's not an easy task briefly, but what I can say is that it really helps the teachers to understand a lot of the behaviors that are coming from the children, to look at it from a perspective of a strengths-based and what could they be telling us right through these things, versus trying to correct or be reactive, but to be proactive, not only with the way that they act, but also with their environment, and letting that be, that classroom organization and management, be that second or third teacher in that classroom. It gives them specific supports to use. On a larger scale, there are 5 trainings that they use. There's classroom observations, there's behavior support, paperwork. There's a leadership team for every agency that goes by certain benchmarks of quality, they call them, or BOQs, that really lay out what you should be doing throughout your whole program. And the cool thing about this is that the data is already put together. They've got their spreadsheets, their charts, and different things. And so each agency puts their information in, and it spits out the aggregate of the data each month. And then the leadership teams talk about that data on a monthly basis. And what's really intriguing that I love is that it pulls out any equity inconsistencies, I guess. So for instance, if the classroom had 10% or 50% rather, 10 of their students are Hispanic and 5 are white and 5 are black, but most of your behavior supports are targeting a certain ethnicity or something like that, it will alert you that your disparities are off, and that forces you to really look at that classroom, those teaching strategies, and what's going on, and it lets that leadership team almost really dive down into where training and professional development and different things need to be. And that's in all of their data, that it really highlights that equity piece and trying to make sure that if there is a disparity or an inequality, that they're talking about that in a healthy way and trying to figure out how to move from there. It's all about improving the overall social and emotional supports. And it also includes aspects to assist with the families too. There's many resources to bring families into this group, and they're always on the leadership teams as well.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I have a quick question. Did this go through curriculum first before it went to finance and facilities?
It didn't go through curriculum, no.
Okay. Because I know we had a practice that had basically said if something came from curriculum and to finance, that it was just kind of like approved, but
right.
It's a question to start asking now when somebody comes from curriculum to say, hey, something comes that's curriculum, did it get approved by curriculum, so.
I'd love to hear in the future just how this is going and improvements and how the program's working and benefiting our kids. That'd be, down the road.
Yeah, for sure. We're in our first year, right, and we're just starting with it. But the data that's easily pulled from it can easily transform into a PowerPoint. So I'd love to share that next year or a little bit down the road.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I was just curious, because at the beginning of what he was saying of his part was that there was a part of this that started in 2019.
Writing the grant.
The grant writing part of it, but not the actual.
It's a pilot.
It was a free cohort that was offered through the state.
Right,
Yeah, two of our programs were picked from the state level to participate in a free cohort of this model. But last year in 2021 is when I started writing the grant over the summer, so that we could follow that same systematic model that they presented to many programs across the state.
So do they have any records left from the original free cohort that was in 2019 to be able to compare it to?
I'm sure they do at the state level. Yeah, it was not just New Britain. There was 2 programs from New Britain, but there was 10 programs overall. I can see if they have data that they would share.
Just have as a baseline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just becomes part of the overall, this is what historically came in or what was seen, and then this is what we started out with in 2021 with your efforts for grants, and then getting the grants 2022.
Thank you. Yeah, I will reach out to the state leaders on this model and see if they can share that.
Absolutely. Any other questions, Mr. Gay?
Just as background, this is for our school readiness program. So the bulk of our school readiness programs are not district preschools. They're the Y, they're HRA, YMCA. And those programs have staff that are paid a whole lot less than our staff. Because of that, they struggle to have teachers with the bachelor's degrees that our teachers start with. And that this is really a response to research done by Dr. Dilliam at Yale about the really disproportionate rates of expulsion and suspensions of children of color, particularly black boys, at the preschool level. So this is the state's response to addressing those disparities and helping early educators address social and emotional issues.
Thank
you. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item N as in Nancy. A motion.
Motion.
I make a motion to approve purchase order for Summer Bridge program in the amount of $40,000.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, just a question. I know I read it was, we've had this since 2016, and just wondering what kind of successes we've had utilizing it, since we should have some years of data as far as outcomes for the kids who are participating in the program.
The Summer Bridge.
Yes, correct.
Ms. Sanford.
Hello?
Oh, I think you're frozen.
Am I frozen? Am I frozen?
Yep, well, now turn your video off. Try your video. And just try that.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Okay, thumbs up. I think everybody's frozen. Hi, this is Sandra Sanford. We have been working with Paulette Fox in the Summer Bridges program, yes, for many years. I think you're asking, if I heard you correctly, you wanted to know how the programs are doing and as they cohort through the high school level. I can get you that data. I apologize, I don't have that with me today, but I can tell you anecdotally, like any partnership that we've had with OIC and the Y have been very highly successful with parent engagement and student engagement and the requirements that, as we know, Ms. Fox is phenomenal with our students and our Her encouragement to the family engagement and the student engagement is bar none, fantastic. But I can get you, this would be rising at-risk 8th graders into 9th grade, summer programming. We have identified a split between 20 students and 20 students with OIC. It is 4 to 5 days a week, 5 weeks, with intensive program for the Career Connections. That is the program that we've been using for a very long time, as Paulette as well, working with Capital Workforce Partners and ensuring that the career competencies are connected to it. This year, with the pandemic on the rise and around us, we've also partnered for this program to have CMHA and clinicians on site for those days, full time. They will be doing SEL work, 1 hour every day, as well as stay within the program at each site. At the end of the day, students will have some career connections straight to the high school, and working with our Academy's counselor at the high school to follow through on some of the pathways that they're learning through the career connections.
Mr. Kane.
Yeah, I gotta say, I kind of echo my namesake. I'd like to see more data for the program. I personally have toured OIC. I've seen this program in action, but I kind of like to see the numbers, especially considering this time around we're funding with ESSER funds, and as we've already said a couple times tonight, ESSER runs out. So if we're going to do the program, I just need some data to back it up, some results. So after 2 years, we continue this program, we don't know if it's worth it or not. So I really would rather see data to back up before we can vote on this.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Questions?
Just a comment. We'll abstain from this just because I see that is written into the budget.
Okay.
Which I wasn't aware of before.
All right, good catch. All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
No.
And then abstain. Two opposed, 1 abstain. Motion carried. All right, so item O, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve the purchase order for the Auditorium program.
Second.
I just had a clarifying question. Do we have a cohort going through right now? Because I remember there was something on this back in September, and then this funds would be for next year's cohort? These funds.
Ms. LaCour, did you hear the question? Oh, sorry.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is Wanda. Yes, we do have a cohort currently going through the program.
Okay. And, are they cohort of 20 as well?
No. Are you asking how many people in the cohort?
Yeah, next year it looks like there's going to be room for 20 this year. I'm just wondering what the cohort is for this year.
This year we have 15 participants.
Okay.
12 are going for the TESOL certificate and 3 for the bilingual.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
But that's a good point. Any other questions? Right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Sorry. All right, motion carries. All right, that was the consent agenda, the items pulled up the consent agenda. On to new business. Item A, revised policy, board communication. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? We did add like a expectation if you send a request for data, et cetera, that it's at least acknowledged within 5 days. I do see several emails that have flown in since the start of this meeting that we'll probably put on, I'm guessing, maybe for one of the committee meetings. Rather, because we should ask these questions in the meeting, but that's just my 2 cents. But it's an expectation of you have a response or acknowledgement within 5 business days. Questions, comments? All right, motion to approve?
Move.
All those in favor signify by saying
Give a
aye.
second.
We had a motion in a second, I re-voted.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B, may I have a motion?
Motion for approval for Executive Search Committee to enter into contract with Cooperative Educational Services in the amount not to exceed $19,220.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kane?
As I'm reading through this contract, I gotta admit, I almost find it a little vague. I mean, for example, unless I'm missing it here, one of the things he said in his presentation was that if we were not satisfied with the candidate, the problem pool, or whatever, we would get a free search. Unless I'm missing it, I did not see that in here.
Yeah, so we did have Corporation Counsel review it, and he did do an Exhibit A, which points out everything that's in the proposal, because you are exactly correct. He only says we're doing the GSI search.
Okay, why Exhibit A here with blank page?
You might have to scroll down a little bit, because it's like 20 pages long.
Okay, and timelines. Is a search timeline firmed up with what he wants? Is that where they're following?
So we do have several meetings, well, we'll have meetings with him to firm up the timelines, because I've kind of made promises on our behalf that we would have like a timeline out to the public by, like when we're going to start focus groups. And this contract is for superintendent search, just so everybody is aware that's what that is. But we did kind of say by the end of this week, we would like to have a timeline set. So the timeline that's in the proposal will be different than the timeline that we develop.
All right, and getting back to your question, I'm scrolling down, I don't see, the Exhibit A is this blank page. And when I scroll down, it goes straight to pretty much the proposal we had last week.
So I don't know if it's when I uploaded it, or I could forward it via phone, and then we will share it online after the fact. We didn't get it till late, but I have it. It's the full proposal that we've received. So I don't know if you scroll, if maybe it was my issue with downloading.
Yeah, after the Exhibit A, they go right to the same proposal we saw last week, letter to you.
That's all he did. That's Corporation Counsel added it as an Exhibit A to everything that is in the proposal.
Yeah, I still don't see that part about if we have to go back. I just don't want any surprises later on.
So we haven't executed it yet. This is like point of preference. We haven't executed it yet. This is to enter into the contract, but not exceeding that amount. Because he hasn't confirmed it. We haven't looked at it as an executive search committee. So this is to approve the amount that was proposed. It's the $17,000 plus the $2,000 for if we go out for advertising. So this is just entering into it not to exceed that amount.
So will you bring the contract to us when it gets finally?
I'm hoping, yeah.
So
tomorrow night.
So to clarify, this gives the president the power to
Just to sign it, but
done. Yeah.
I won't sign without, right? Any further discussion? All right. Motion to approve.
So move.
Sorry, did it again. Oh my God, all those in favor, it's just so bad.
Blame it on the caffeine.
I don't drink caffeine, that's the problem. I'm like, oh, all right. All those opposed? All right. Motion carries. May I have a motion for item C?
Proposal to lease a facility for centralized food service facility.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I know a number, so back in September, the board said move forward with 2 leases. And I know we have new board members here, so I want you all to be on board. I'm ready to move forward with something, but I really want to basically have the board support it. When we look back in 2019, I'm not going to read the memo I wrote, but in 2019, we actually hired an architect to explore plastic. At that point in time, it was our understanding that those funds could be used to either construct or build a building. We later found out that's not true. There's USD guidelines that doesn't allow you to build or construct a building. So even though the cost was great back then, it's greater than we could afford. Back then we had $6 million. So you have to think about we're a CDP firm. We're actually generating a lot of revenues. And we're actually, I think as of today, we probably have somewhere in the $12 million range. The state is coming back after and saying, look, eventually, if you don't have a plan, those funds are going to go back. And there's a real need here in New Britain to actually have a centralized kitchen / warehouse. If you've ever been to New Britain High School, there's a lot of, what they call them, large areas out there, and it's really not a good.
In the hallways.
And so we're trying to move forward. We've actually looked at this site. I can actually, if I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to click on that YouTube thing that came forward in September. There was also a handout that was given in September. I don't mind passing this out for the board members that haven't seen it and the board members that haven't. But really what happened is, when we look at these 2 sites we were looking at, it was 2 priorities. I'm going to be honest with you. In my opinion, the high priority was the centralized kitchen warehouse. The other one came first. But at the end of the day, that's what life's all about. But there is a real need here. The person that owns this property is really ready to basically say, hey, look, it kind of got dropped by us. This was Mr. Deanna leaving and all that. Picked it up. It's a 10-year lease, and it's a 10-year lease to basically go on for 20 years. Initially, there was no termination on the lease, and there's always, we had a couple people come in, consultants come in, they looked at the site, and they really said, this looks like a great site. But there's always that possibility that this, you won't be able to turn the site into it. And that's where we have a termination. Between 12 and 24 months, we can terminate, and there's a payment out there. When you think about the cost for this is not coming from the Britain taxpayers. It's not coming from the city bonding or city financing, or an 80% or 95% reimbursement, which is going to hit the taxpayers. The cost is going to come from the food service fund. When we talk about the food service fund, and I think we talked about back in September, I know Ms. Santana was asking about the tables and so forth. Well, we're sitting on a money that needs to be put back into the program. And I think what's happened is there are other things that might be more important, but this is really important. I mean, we have to make this change. So I'm just really saying to the board tonight, if you're okay with it, I want to basically, I'm working with the landlord right now. They want to draft up a lease, and then we want to bring the lease back for the board approval.
So the one thing I was never clear on is we never did a feasibility study for that production court to actually house a kitchen.
And so that's why for production court, whatever, we would have to hire an architect. People that came and saw the facility, they said, geez, this facility looks really great. I mean, I can pass
it does look great.
Did you guys see the YouTube video of how that the facility? But it's everything you want in the kitchen. The ceilings are quite high. It's a 20-foot ceilings.
It's a former flood.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, when you walked out there, that's what we found out. That's the building you really want. And if you were going to construct a building, that's the kind of building you would construct. Let me get you a couple more here.
But there is no kitchen facility in there now.
No, it's a shell.
So what you did was negotiate, originally it was, in 6 months from now, if we say we cannot build a kitchen, you renegotiated it to say we can back out with 6 months notice with $90,000.
Yeah, between 12 and 24 months.
12 and 24 months.
12 and 24. I mean, initially it was 12 months, and I said, initially it was 12 months, Mr. Dion negotiated 12 months, but I just said, what if, with all the paperwork and all the legalities and so forth, 12 months goes by and we find out we can't do it. I think we're going to be able to move faster than 12 months, but at the end of the day, I don't really know. So we need to bring an architect in there. He or she will go in there. Buckley High School, actually, when they rebuilt Buckley High School, they added on like a 20,000 foot kitchen / warehouse off of Buckley High School. And it's actually, you know, Ann Alfano is actually working, she knows the food service director in Hartford. We're actually trying to see what the plans are for that one. It might be a little different for us. We actually looked at the Springfield one, it's huge. It's like 100,000 square feet, 140,000 square feet. We saw a huge kitchen with a warehouse, but it's 10 times what we need anyway. But this would really make a difference. One thing about this site, it does have an extra 20,000, 26,000 feet attached to it. If New Britain grows and the tenant leaves, that's something that we have first right to go in and lease that part of the building. Right?
So, Mr.
King, just give me 1 second. 1 second. So, back in September, we approved to move forward. Can you tell me what the change is from September to now? Because we've already approved to go forward.
Yeah, you approved to go forward, but once I started looking at terms, a 10-year term, there was no termination. And I just said, wait a minute, you know, what happens when I lease the building for 10 years? And I won't be here in a couple years anyway, but at the end of the day, if I'm not here in a couple years and you guys are sitting on something that you can't do anything with, I'm sure you're gonna come down and kill me somewhere, right? So my feeling was, I want to have a chance, just because people that looked at the building think it's 95, 99% sure it can happen. They looked at it and said, this is beautiful. I mean, they came in, but there's always that 1% chance that maybe it can happen. So I don't really want to tie the Britain Board of Education or anybody else here in a 10-year lease with a dinosaur out there.
Okay. So you renegotiated the contract to add.
Yeah, I said there needs to be termination. There needs to be some type of termination. And,
I gotcha.
And the other thing, yeah, I mean, there need to be a chance. I mean, and there's a cost. When you terminate, you're gonna pay them a fee of $90,000.
But so is it in the contract that says within 12 months?
12 to 24 months.
12 to 24 months from when we sign, we say we can't do a kitchen, we can get out, or we can't get out?
Yes, you can get out.
Thank you. Mr. Kane.
Okay, I'm looking at the diagram for the blueprint. So it's not just a kitchen you're talking about, it's a warehouse for storing the food items.
Yes.
Production facility, package, shipping area.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually saw if you watch the diagram or watch the video, there's a large bay that goes in. And that would actually be the tractor trailers, 1 ton or two things that go in there. And there's another area that actually could be the trucks, the flatbed trucks, or whatever trucks we have, we can take the food out to the school. So there's 1 in, 1 out. The kitchen itself will probably be, I'm just gonna make this up, the kitchen itself will probably be 1/3 of the area or less. And the other thing will be the cold and dry storage units. And then you also have the offices, up to 2,000 square feet of offices, et cetera, which will maintain the food service here.
And Whetstone will still be the contractor for the...
For now, yes.
I was going to say they're another 5 years.
Whitson has, I think it's 5 1-year agreements, I believe, we're in year 3 or 4. Eventually, that will go on again for a bid, it'd be Whitson or somebody else. So it's really CSD and these.
Was he part of the process?
That was my question.
He was part of the process at looking at production court, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, they I believe they have seen. We actually one with the Springfield. It wasn't Whitson. It was another one of the large ones. I think it was ARA or something that was up there. But it's the same situation. It's you bring a third party vendors.
And John Downey Drive, so these all the every storage for all schools, everything will be in this one building now.
No, this is just for food service.
Food service.
No, it's John Downey Drive.
Oh, you're talking the other one. You're talking the other place. Yes.
Do we have John Downey on the agenda or no?
No.
So that's the proposal.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, that one's already leased.
Hold on a minute. Do we have just the food services on tonight's agenda, not talking about John Downey?
That lease was back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's just a centralized warehouse with a
The
facilities
medication
office.
weighing off.
This warehouse is 20,000 square feet. I think John Downey Drive, it was approximately 8,000 square feet. I think it was 6,500 was warehouse, 1,500 was office. This is just for food service. And, there's so much storage on there.
Okay.
And that's really, I just want to make sure the board's okay, because we've been sitting on this, and it's going to go well.
Right, so my concern is we are in the process of hiring a facilities director, right? So do you wait until this person is fully on board? Because they're basically gonna be drinking from a fire hose, right?
I mean,
You can't, we're gonna
This is the on wait so long on this, it's gonna be gone. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here tonight, or stand here tonight and tell you that, we have a month or two. I mean, it's one of these type of things, either we do it, and if we don't do it, we're gonna be giving that money back. I'm not gonna say.
Give it to me.
You think about this, back in 2019.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
Yep.
2019, 2020, we had about up to $6 million. Today, that fund is now, I believe the fund balance is at least $12 million. We talk about profit, it's generating up to $2 million profit a year. And of course, this is gonna cost you something. When you look at the lease and some expenses, the lease itself is about $170,000 a year. The expenses, you might get a couple $100,000 on top of that. But we're generating so much profit, and we can run a better operation, and we're gonna have funds available to really start doing things. I mean, I keep saying, I just hope when we have a new director of facilities that we get to the point in time we can actually put a plan together to make these cafeterias look acceptable.
Yeah.
When we look at our buildings, we know we have some old buildings, but wouldn't it be great that your best room, your best thing in every building is your cafeteria, so when people come in here, you can hold meetings there and so forth? I mean, we're not there yet. We need to get there.
All right. Any further questions? Santana?
Your question was the lead off, and I hear your answers, I honestly do, and I hear everything you say, I do process it. I still don't have an answer in my head from her question to your last word. Where's the facilities audit? Where's the actual, something showing that there was the need for this particular, okay.
Okay, I'm there.
That's where you started, and I'm going, wait a minute, but in all of that, we totally.
No, there's is there an audit? No, there's a need. I mean, people come in.
Yeah, but I have hold on. I'm going to answer a question because we're there. 3-4 years ago, they came in and said, let's do this at Pulaski. We did a whole feasibility study.
Yeah.
Once we went back to the state said, you can't use this money to build a facility. So the need is there, right, from 3-4 years ago. Go down to the high school and you'll see it.
No, I go to the high school all the time. Here's where I'm stuck. Is that now what we're saying is we need this right now. When the original, let's go touch this and look at it, was a few years ago. In the interim,
COVID hit. Not a worry.
Well, that doesn't keep you from still needing a cafeteria.
Sure it does, because nobody's in school.
But they weren't in school.
Right, nobody's in school.
But you still have buildings, you still have projects that proceed regardless of you having students in the physical building. If you already know that you articulated a need ahead of time.
Right, so
I'm looking at that.
Back in September, Mr. Dion proposed, we said yes, he never went forward. If we don't move forward now, we will lose the spot.
Okay, so he failed to act and now we have to hurry up.
But it was going to be slow. It ended up being a slow process. I mean, back in 2019, there's a need. We knew that. The district knew there was a need, and at that point in time, what our understanding was, the only site we could use was Pulaski because they had some what do you call them?
Well, Pulaski had the ability to be able to go in, turn around.
Portables, and the understanding back then was the portables, you can actually spend this money to convert or expand the portables. But we found out later on, the cost was a lot, but we found out later on we couldn't even do that. The warehouse itself back in Pulaski.
You can't use the money that's slated for that.
We couldn't even do that. You can't construct a building with these funds.
Mr. Kane.
This is where we really miss having a facilities director.
Right.
Or someone who's, obviously Mr. Ortiz, but interim.
Right.
I think if I understand Ms. Santana correctly, this was needed in 2019. What have we been doing in the 3 years since? Obviously, COVID aside, we still had park students in the building. What are we doing this year? What were we doing in 2019, before the pandemic hit?
So 2019 was Mr. Moore. This was a proposal by Mr. Moore.
Right. But what were we doing? We have this need, we have this great need, but what have we been doing, how have we been managing in the interim?
That would be, you would have to talk to Mr. Taddeo about that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not a pretty sight down
You've been
there.
limping along. I mean, we keep renting storage bins or whatever they call them, these huge places.
Coolers,
we're in high school.
everything.
Yeah, it's
because this predates my time on the board as
Yeah,
well. So I mean,
because this was
more than
the
half
board.
of us are new.
So let me ask you this, would the board feel more comfortable if we refer to committee, go back to committee for February?
I'm not gonna be perfectly honest with you. I can talk to, I feel it's gonna go. I'm not gonna sit here and beat around the bush with anybody. The board asked me to go forward, or asked Mr. Young to go forward in September.
Then we
I
should
didn't
have
tell the
moved
landlord.
forward.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's up to you. You want to, you, this isn't for me, guys. I'm not
All right, so let's do this, let's do this.
Great thing.
Any other questions from, all right, so I'm gonna go with Mr. Listro and Mr. Hagan. and then-
So there'll be a one-time cost for kitchen equipment, and
Yes.
can the cafeteria fund pay for all that?
Yes, yes.
And what about alterations to the building?
Everything needs to go through the state, okay? So Mrs. O'Fonnell's be working with the state. If it doesn't hit the list, she submits it, and for the most part, they've told her if it looks good, we waive it. The state's aware of this site. She's gotten very positive feedback from the state regarding this site. They're excited, because they know we've been sitting on these funds for years. So the state is saying, you either spend it, or somebody's gonna take it.
Right.
So it's really up to everybody here. If we can give back the money to the US government, you know, it's.
Mr. Gay.
So we have approval now to enter into a contract. The question really is, you looked at it and said we don't have an out. If for some reason something gets derailed. That's really what we're talking about. It's either you go ahead and sign the contract now, based on the prior approval, or we give them authority to redo this so that there is the possibility to get out.
Well, that's the reason I stopped until we knew a termination. I mean, and you know, I always feel, and I don't think we're going to use a termination. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that's going to happen. Everybody that looked at the bill and said, it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but you need to make sure you hire accurately, make sure you're doing it correctly. You know, but if we don't move it right now, you know, we're sitting at $12 million, okay, or even more than that. The state, regarding the food service fund, my understanding allows you to keep up to 3 months of revenue. So our revenues are $10 to $12 million. So just think about this fund balance. You have a $2.5 to $3 million. That's excessive. $2.5 to $3 million fund balance. So what the state's looking for us to do is not to spend $9 million tomorrow. They're looking for a plan and how to do it. This just takes it down a bit. The other part of it is actually redoing the kitchens, the furniture, you know, fixing those cafeterias.
The rest that goes into
Yeah, that's probably, you know, to be honest with you, that's going to be at least twice of this, or at least, you know, this would be half of it, or the other part would be the other half. You know, so this isn't, like, you know, like taking your bank book and saying, geez, we're going to all blow it on this. I don't think you're blowing on this. But there's other things we need to do.
Right.
And we got to have a better plan. There's no doubt about it. So this will be the first phase, but you know, we talk about furniture that went to schools and so forth. We should, you know, once we get a new facility director, maybe we bring somebody in, you know, I don't want to say it's an architect, but maybe we bring somebody to look at all our kitchens and do a study.
But that should be done before we get in bed with a new contract.
Now, I disagree with you. I mean, if you want to do that, then you can get the money back.
So just for clarity, right? So there's already approval to move forward with the old contract. If we do not approve this contract, the old contract still stands. And they go forward. This is a better contract with an out.
This gives us the out.
This gives us an out.
You're going to get a contract. The first proposal was no termination. No termination.
Right.
And when I looked at that, I said no.
No, but I appreciate that because that is consistent with you. You do double check yourself, and I got that. That's not the challenge for me. The challenge for me is I understand it, but we were proceeding without having the rest of the information we should have had in front of us, which is included but not limited to a facilities audit. So we're still proceeding with a project that is going to be void.
This has nothing to do with any of your schools. This is not a facility.
This is not a facility, it's a food service.
Actually looking at your schools, your groups, and looking at your own facilities. This is on the side.
Right.
This is actually leasing a facility that we can use. The state has approved us to go forward with lease.
And they've given you the money to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to cost a taxpayer. It's not, you know, that's one thing too. If you were going to do a school construction project or whatever, this may be able to fit into a major school renovation. the state may reimburse you 95 cents or 80%.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the state may look at it and also say, we're going to reimburse you for that portion of that school, for that cafeteria. Because if you're putting a major cafeteria over, they're not going to say it's not 100% eligible. They're going to say it could be Buckley High School, maybe 20% is eligible. Because what Buckley is using, I'm not saying how they get it, they're using that cafeteria, it's like a swing space. You know, so when you start renovating schools and so forth, and you start demolishing kitchens, you know, when we look at it, we demolish New Britain High School kitchen when we do it. This cafeteria can support New Britain High School until we fix New Britain High School. It's actually, it's a Pope John Paul, it's a swing space. It's also something we grow with.
Yep, agree.
It's a tough example.
I know.
We just bought that bad boy to boilers.
That's all
Any other
I'm just looking for the boards, you know.
Yep.
Kind of like a nod to say, go forward and bring a lease together. You're gonna have to.
Well, a new lease, otherwise we go forward with the old
Well,
lease.
no, we don't have an old lease. It was old terminology. We never had, Kevin Dion never did a lease. There was
The old
terms
proposal.
to draft a lease.
Discussion.
And when I saw the terms, I decided I wanted to change the terms.
I gotcha. Mr. Kane.
No, I gotta say, I kinda agree with the whole proposal here, because I've seen the cafeterias in all schools, I've seen the way they're serving food, I've seen the condition of the food by the time the kids get it. We really need to revamp our whole food program, and I know we've talked about introducing requests for facilities also for overall, but this is a no-brainer, and it sounds like, again, you guys already approved it, we're only changing the out.
Right.
Everything else is staying the same as you guys agreed, and we're putting the Kevin Dion's request agreement in writing, so I understand.
Right, I'm gonna bring together, you know, if we'll bring a lease together, maybe next meeting or whatever, the actual lease, we'll have our attorneys look at. People have seen the term sheets, and the only thing really changed on the term sheet was just basically a determination. And also I had a few other things into it, which basically gives us the right to lease next door. And it also gives the city the right, if they want to sell the property in 10, 15 years, it gives the city the right to make the first, you know,
To do that.
not to say
To buy
somebody's gonna buy it, but
First right of
you can't, yeah, somebody's gonna have to buy it.
First right of refusal,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
And that wasn't part of the original.
And
Mr. Listro.
And they're the.
Oh, Tony,
they will
Mr.
own
Kane,
it.
give him, Mr. Listro.
No, I just had a comment, which is that I'm supportive of this, and it's long overdue. When we look at our food service program over the past couple of years, it's really been heat and serve. So our food service company buys in food, heats it, sends it off to the schools. If we look at the response from parents in the community over the past few years on school meals, including the kids, they want better food.
Yeah.
And we can't just point fingers to our food service company saying, why aren't you getting better food when they don't have the capacity to serve better food? So it's long overdue, and the more kitchen space we have, the more scratch cooking we can do, the more fresh foods that we can process, and the better we could make our meals. So.
Mr. Kane.
No, I'm kind of, well, two questions. First off, we won't be owning the building, so it's doesn't become tax roll.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of remember too, when we built Roosevelt had a state-of-the-art kitchen, and New Britain had a state-of-the-art kitchen, that's by the whole district. Well, you're talking 30 years ago. And we're basically still operating under those conditions. I don't think we're doing cooking in Roosevelt anymore. I think it's all we're not.
It went back. Oh, cooking, I don't know.
Yeah, so you're talking, we're still doing a plan that's been in place since half the board, for my fellow board members, are probably still doing elementary school.
Yeah.
So we really need to revamp the whole program. This is a perfect start.
I mean,
It's not costing us
really,
anything.
a lot of the kitchens have to be improved. There's no doubt about it. For high school, the middle schools, and even at the elementary level, but the, you know, 2 middle schools need to be improved, and for high school, have to have a remake and all that.
But this is a start to just look at what we have, right? Because, I mean, it is jammed, everything is jammed at the high school.
Well, that's it. It's actually going to get all that stuff from the outside out of there, and it's going to keep it in a central location. And nice thing when we saw Springfield, it was beautiful because we have to make sure we keep it clean. It was impeccable inside there. You had to see it. It was so sanitized. And it's all going to be paid from the food service fund.
All right. So, any other questions? I almost said motion again. Just so you know. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, partnership, accept donation A motion.
Motion to accept $115,000.
That's not a hard one. Have a second.
Second.
Any questions? Not when we take it, buddy.
Come on.
I know. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just really quick, there was additional information in your side file about it. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item E.
Thank you.
Favorite.
Motion to, you want to make that motion?
Season, make a motion to accept the partnership contract.
A motion to approve contract between Consolidated School District of New Britain and Master Yang's U.S. Taekwondo classes and uniform for $6,700.
Is there a second?
As I was reading the original. I'll take a second.
Any discussion?
Just thank you, Master Yang. I love that guy. He's
Say it louder, let him hear you.
Thank you, Master Yang.
Where are they located?
In the old Webster Bank when you're going from New Britain, when you pass Chamberlain?
Across from
Right past Chesley.
Yeah.
Near Veggie World.
Yep, near Veggie World. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F.
Motion to approve contract between Consolidated School District of New Britain and Arts for Learning Connecticut for extracurricular clubs in the amount of $13,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
That is the presentation that we had earlier. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion
No, I was gonna say, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't even supposed to make a motion on the business.
Oh, I'm trying to skip
Okay, I
it.
withdraw my motion.
Oh.
I thought we were going to go into executive session. I think that's what we were supposed to do in today's general meeting.
Are you making a motion to go into executive session
About the issue.
to discuss?
Yep.
To discuss,
It was we had an open pending issue that was about a particular school, a particular staff, and you said that we needed to, it was a personnel issue, but what you had said was that we first needed to make the request here at the general meeting, at the end, for us to be able to go into executive session.
correct.
Or,
to get an
I
answer.
remember this, or call a special meeting and let that do it.
So, somebody stop me if I'm going where I'm not supposed to go, but there is an open, stop me. I don't know if I'm going to the right place. It's no longer a topic that we can discuss because there is a open investigation. If it is still the topic that you thought we were going to go into executive session about.
Well, the only way to find out is to go into executive session and actually have that discussion instead of going around in circles. I mean, unless.
I second.
So we have a motion to add an item to the agenda, a seconded motion, and then that item is to go into executive session.
Is there anybody else who would be going into
Right, who
executive
needs to-
session with us, or is it just the board members?
I think we should write the board members, right? We have board members, Ms. Sarah and.
Ms. Manning.
Board members.
I thought it was going to be just board members.
Ms. Manning as well, please.
Yeah.
She said to pick you up.
If it's personnel, we need Ms. Manning.
She's right.
Was it that Ms. Manning isn't there?
Is it Miss? She was online.
I'm here.
Okay, so if we're going to go into executive session, we need to do that with,
Yeah, make a motion. I'd like to go into executive session with the full board.
I'm making a motion to go into full,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
trying
we
to
have the
get it
motion
down.
and we're bringing in the full board, Miss Manning, Miss Sarah, and I believe that is
Do we need
it.
anybody outside the full board? Where do we need? I'm confused.
Because it's a personnel manager, we should have a personnel director to make sure we don't overstep our legal boundaries and superintending certain areas of the district. The person reports to people in question report directly to her. So you gotta have her for personnel protect us.
So what
I suppose it's gonna just debate what the question is, like if it's a personnel district-wide, is it a specific personnel? I don't know, like, not very comfortable with this one, so. This meeting, I'd appreciate if you come with. Is somebody in the board in the meeting, or do I need to join?
Didn't we say that we thought we need the attorney or talk to the attorney?
There might be some personnel director gives the legal guidance.
Yep.
Personnel guidance on. There's a lot of areas in here, again, we said personnel directors, and there's a lot of areas that might come up that we can overstep our goals and get.
But you don't even know what the conversation is.
Right, I don't even know what the conversation is, right?
Well, we had a little bit of a discussion before, so we do have an idea.
Right.
I thought it was gonna be all of us having a discussion, very brief, about the matter that we had started the other day, but it was just a matter of, following, your direction was that we needed to bring it to the board and give them the opportunity at the next full board meeting, and that's fine. But we're at the full board meeting, I'm making the motion. My hope is that
We did mention, because I specifically said it on the personnel committee, that we could have a special meeting. I'm not saying that we have to, but there was two options, to go into executive session then, or have a special meeting.
But what was stressed even that night was that anytime we are discussing any one or any particular issue, that we needed to go into executive session. So I was asking for that consideration at this time.
Yeah, just keep in mind that the executive session could be a matter of 30 seconds, depending on what the topic is. So if we could all go into executive session with Ms. Sarah, Ms. Manning, and the full board. I will. Oh, may I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right. May I have a motion to go back in session?
You just say you're back in.
Oh, we're back in session. Now I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.